We're told to get our ducks in a row before we launch, but the truth is the ducks are caffeinated, chaotic, and currently heading for the exit. The hope is people will see this and say, if that Jimmo can find some level of success, then, certainly so can I. Because the reality is as long as you continue to move forward, those things that you cannot control will find their ways to align with you.
I ride a roller coaster every day. I start my day feeling pretty good. Woo! And by 6, 7 o'clock, I'm feeling like, I don't know if I can do this.
Find your wins. Make sure you find your wins. Every day, mark your wins. And be grateful for them.
They said it was too late, that the best years were behind him. But he wasn't done. He was just getting dangerous. This podcast isn't for the overnight success stories. It's for the ones who are still in the middle of the damn fight. The late bloomers, the blue-collar visionaries, the people who refuse to settle. This isn't a comeback. It's a fucking uprising.
And welcome to Electrician Entrepreneur, podcast documenting not just my journey, but now my wife and I's journey to entrepreneurship. Really having just started in this journey recently, which we documented in our last episode, our revival episode. And this is going on 2 years for me. So this is, it's all the documentation, going from a previous life for me is in 20 years as an electrician, to becoming an entrepreneur, and the various, changes we go through, the trials, the tribulations, all the great things. Nobody else documents it. You only ever see them when they're successful. And so the goal here is to show what it's actually like, what it's really like. The ups, the downs, the fucking I hate this shit, I'm ready to quit moments. So for this episode, we're told to get our ducks in a row before we launch, but the truth is the ducks are caffeinated, chaotic, and currently heading for the exit. Today we're talking about why leading while losing is the only way to actually find the win. So we're gonna kind of go over this past week, insights and the trials, tribulations of our lives this past week. I want to start off with some wins. Why don't we start with some wins? Okay. We're going to kind of skip the notes for a second and just kind of go over some wins. So what kind of wins have you had this past week?
You kind of put me on the spot here.
All right. Well, you think that over. I'll give you my win. My wins for this past week. I had a lot of personal wins on the deep inside, things that I'm grateful for that really have to do with just going through the experience. The big win is I finally got to a point where I feel very good and comfortable with the value that I placed on all of my services in this upcoming business, which by all means is a business, has been a business all along, but it's not really a business until you have your first customer, right? So, but there's a lot of work into it. And so where I'm coming from, my biggest win is just, finally getting comfortable with where I'm at with that. And I am now prepared for launch. I just need my social media plan or my marketing plan so that I can start getting this information out there. So we're going to start with a podcast, a shameless little plug. Okay. So evec-community.org or elevated velocity electrical consulting.com. That's a lot to chew on right there.
Yeah.
But that's the landing page. I'm currently taking pre-orders so that we all understand where I'm at. The book is 99% ready. There's just some minor cosmetic tweaks that I need to make to it, which I've been putting off in lieu of coming up with this plan. But unfortunately, so that the entire everything here is based on a principle of intellectual property, and so because it's intellectual property, I I can say all kinds of stuff about how I own it, but somebody could still realistically steal it, and I wouldn't be able to, there wouldn't be much I could do about it unless I were to register it. So before I send my book out, I need an ISBN, which I don't remember what that stands for, but it's a unique identifier for the book, and I need a copyright on it. And this then makes it official with the U.S. government that it is my intellectual property, and therefore I put it out there, and nobody's going to just steal it, including publishers such as Amazon and Ingram Spark, I believe, is the name of the other company that I'm going to be using for publishing. So they cost money, and you and I, we've had some pretty we've had some big hits over the last few weeks, and so money is not something that we have really. I wouldn't even say we have less than an abundance of.
Yeah.
It's we're struggling. This is part of it, though, right?
Right.
It's all a big part of it. So so I have to the ISBNs. I'm actually altogether, I actually need a startup cost of roughly $450. However, we came up with a campaign. Gemini and I used Gemini to help me just give me good suggestions and everything, and so we came up with a campaign. It's called the Founding Dozen, and there's 3 tiers to the Founding Dozen that you can find on the website on the landing page. The first one's pretty basic, but all of them give you mid-tier access to the community, which is another thing that you get with the pre-order. You're not just pre-ordering a book, but you get community access, and this is where my business is really going to be centered, is around this community access. So the principle here is, of course, changing the industry in terms of how industries run. I think that I think there's a great deal of electrical contractors out there that just wing it. They have a basic sense of how to run a business. They maybe read a bunch of books, maybe even had a mentor or two, but there's no real standard to running the business. And I think that most electrical contractors, they go into it initially as a solo guy. I'm doing this just to take care of, pay the bills. I don't want to answer to anybody anymore. I'm just going to do this. And then they end up in a position where they can begin to grow the company. And I sound better when I talk to them right here. So, but at any rate, so the idea here is we want to kind of standardize how, we want these contractors, these electricians, they start off as just electricians such as myself, and looking for something better. Well, when at some point it becomes a different kind of business, and you probably, as a solo guy, end up spending, 80 hours a week working on the business, the 40 for your daily grind, and then another 40 for managing the business. And so then you hire staff and all this other stuff. But, realistically, all these books and everybody else, it seems like this guy who's elevated himself into running an actual company has never really, nobody's really told him how to approach it as a company. And he thinks, they think they have an idea. It's contracting, it's construction, it's service, responding to somebody wanting to move an outlet versus building an entire, office building or something along those lines. I think that and I think that the number one issue in the contracting business is that general contractors, developers, and architects and engineers all expect that the average subcontractor is coming from that position of not really understanding how to treat their business like a business. And so there's a lot in contracts and so on and so forth that really kind of take advantage of the average contractor because they don't know they don't know how to approach it differently. And that's not to say that, I'm not saying anybody's stupid. It's a lack of training. And that's really the crux of what this business is about not just training the electrical contractor, the owner, but also the attempt is to get the owner to recognize the benefits of training all the way to the bottom of the hierarchy of their company. Everybody needs training in the next level, and it's fighting the fears of doing stuff like that, and so on and so forth. So at any rate, I spent a lot of time talking about with my shameless plug. It's more like shameless construction at this point. But at any rate, so that's all going live. It is live now. Now I just got to market it. So that's my big giant win.
Awesome.
So that's my big giant win. I have other wins. I am coming to terms with some work related stuff. That'll be a big win, but it's not quite yet. So there's some things that that still need to be worked on, but for me from this past week. But that I've got that big win. Do you have a big win for me? You got some wins?
As you all know from last week, I am after 10 years of working for someone else, I am attempting to open my own grooming salon in my home. But in order to do that, we need significant remodeling and we need capital. So I met with a local capital organization this week, and I was also able to finish my business plan. So that's good to go. So that's my big win for the week.
Yeah. Feel pretty good about this past week.
Yeah, I do.
I should point out too, another big win. It's not just from this past week. It's actually from the past 2 weeks when another big win has been our Sunday review. So to kind of explain what that is, you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So every day we in the morning we talk about what we're excited about for the day and what we're looking forward to. And then in the evening, we talk about what we were grateful for that happened to us during that particular day. And then on Sundays, we review the prior week, and we talk about our gratefulness and our wins and what we're feeling good about in our journey, as it were.
Right. Oop. I just want to point out, I got to say this again. I think it bears repeating. This is so unpolished, this podcast. We wanted authenticity, and let me tell you, there's nothing harder than being truly authentic when you're putting yourself out there in front of the world. Am I right?
Yes.
So we're fighting with camera angles, we're fighting with the audio, we're fighting. I mean, I was beating on the microphone just half an hour ago because I couldn't get the audio through to, to, to record, and I mean, it's very difficult, is it not? I mean,
it's frustrating to do something once, everything seems okay, and then come back to do the same exact thing again, and we got problems.
And yeah, it's like we're starting all over again.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I mean, it's funny looking back at it. In the moment, it's like, what the fuck? And I think it's the toughest thing is that we keep forgetting that we're actually trying to be as authentic as possible. And because the whole point of this, at the end of the day, it's not just documenting, which is the primary purpose, right? We're documenting our journey so we can talk about this much later on. We've got reference points. We can direct people back to this moment. Hey, you should check out episode number or whatever, blah 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 blah. And because wow, was I going through it then? But it's not just it's the hope is that other people see this at some point. People will see this because once it's on the internet, that's it. It's out there.
Yeah.
But the hope is people will see this and say, if that Jamoke, meaning me, if that Jamoke can be, can find some level of success, then certainly so can I. And it's also to kind of show, maybe you're going through it right now, right? So, like, you've been watching me go through this for the last year and a half, and you've been watching my dramatic changes, right?
Yeah.
From 1 minute to one week to the next could be a dramatic overhaul in my attitude. And it's important to see. And I think this is actually now we can start kind of getting into our notes, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to see that I can see where your cursor is. It's right there in the middle of transition, right?
I don't know.
You don't know? Oh, well, at any rate, I'm sorry. The squirrel. So. At any rate, the thing is in going through it, in the middle of going through it all, it's really easy to say that this is just too much. I don't think I can do it. And so on and so forth. And I've talked about this before, plenty of times before. It's what I refer to as the showing up metric, which is you show up every day. You don't. You're literally you're tanked. Your energy levels as low as it can go because you've been working so hard at it. You feel like you're working against the flow. You're working, while you're pushing that boulder that up the hill, but you're not going anywhere, and you're wondering, why can't I make any progress? When God turns around and says, "I never wanted you to get up the hill," or "I'd never asked you to get up the hill. I just asked you to push the boulder." And that's, so that's the showing up metric is, we're so focused on results. Excuse me. We focus so much on results and we focus so much on the end game that we tend to, forget. It's not, I think that we're sold this illusion that if we come up with a goal and we picture a particular life and we have this idea of what this is going to be, and then we go after it, eventually we get there.
Right.
And in the reality is that, it's not about getting there. It's not about arriving, right? For some people that, maybe maybe it's easier to get to where they're going. And then, once they've gotten there, that's all right. So everything is what it is. and they've those, if they've had it easy to get to that point, um, they don't ever question why they need to get there. The showing up metric basically states that, it's in the doing, right?
Right.
So even if we arrive at whatever to go, of course, you need to have an idea where you're going. You do want to have an idea. You want to picture a particular life, a particular uh, result, but that's not that thing can actually shift and change. And you can't expect, if you hold on to it too tightly, you're never going to, it's always going to be a struggle, and you're always going to question whether or not you want to go, because you're looking for the mountaintop. But the mountaintop doesn't, it's organic, and it changes. And um I think in your case it's a much more achievable thing, because it's right. You're not changing to something completely different.
Right.
You're just, I mean, you are and you aren't. You're trying to create a business, which is something you've never done before. So there is that aspect to it. You are doing something very different than what you're accustomed to. But it's all, the crux of what you're doing is what you're passionate about, is the same thing you've been doing for the last 10 years, dog grooming, for those that are new. But at any rate, for me, it's a completely different thing. I'm getting away from the 20 years of electrical construction or just electrical in general. I don't want to do it anymore. And it's not that it's a bad trade or anything. My body is starting to fall apart, as has been evident over the last 6 months. Actually, the last year. I mean, with all the stuff that I went through this time last year, and I still don't have answers, right?
Right.
But I mean, all of that, and I think that ultimately too is, we all, well, I hear a lot about seasons in people that, in people that I find interesting, that have interesting insights and such. And Tony Robbins talks about seasons, and there's seasons of your life. There's seasons of, it's all patterns, right?
Right.
But I think that, ultimately one season of my life came to an end, which was the electrical season. And now I'm going into a new season. And while I think that I do love electrical, I love the technical aspects of it. And I've always been, and I've always had a passion for it, and in an aspect of like, well, now I know it, and now, I always feel compelled to teach people. Like, you don't know anything about what I do, or what the crux of the, the base behind my career. So let me explain to you, so this is, this is how 3-phase works. This is how single phase works, so on and so forth. And that, in and I love to draw diagrams, right? I've always enjoyed that sort of thing. And so this is where I'm naturally gravitating to, is going in that direction. And the funny thing about entrepreneurship, well, I mean, the crux of entrepreneurship is, if you don't know, if you are really good at something, and you want to be, you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you're really good at something, or you're really knowledgeable about something, you find a pain point. And for me, this, that's the pain point is, I mean, why are all these contractors always subjected to, what general contractors and owners? And I mean, why is it that only so many electrical contractors out there actually understand how to beat that system and actually make money? And it's not, I'm not looking at things in terms of malice. The average owner, developer, architect, the AIA documents, the freaking, the average general contractor, they're they're not looking to beat anybody up. But they don't want you to have any real margin. It's been said to me before, and I haven't researched this, but I believe that the any good business should be looking for exactly a 33% profit margin. That is to say, after your COGS, or your costs of goods sold, then you have your overhead, and then you should have around a 33% profit margin, or maybe it's 33% for your overhead and profit. And the average contract for a subcontractor is anywhere from 5 to 15%, which is less than half. You know what I mean? And so, by definition, the average subcontractor can never grow beyond this this level of servitude. And we don't get into business to be slaves. That's why are we in business if that's the case? We need to get into business for the sake of for legacy, for maybe building a better world. And at the end of the day, profit drives all of that. So that's that's where I keep gravitating back to that, don't I? Towards my products. But at any rate, I got to clean up these cables too. It's a real mess under here. But at any rate, so I made a remark in my journal earlier this week, and I think that it's funny. I didn't really mean for this. It was just an insight that I was having. Meandering. Let's see. So where is it? I got to find the actual quote. You cannot get all of your ducks in a row. So we're all sold on a lie that we need to get our ducks in a row before we can take action. And I think that's what one of the biggest things that people don't understand when going into business and seeking out entrepreneurship. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why people end up quitting is you get so stuck on getting all of your ducks in a row. So the lie is that we need to get our ducks in a row, have everything prepared and perfect, exactly the way we want it. So before we go into business. So, if you're building a restaurant, you want the perfect menu. If you're, you want the whole staff, everything. So you get the building, you hire a couple of cooks and you're going to even work in the kitchen too, so you can get it going. You get a couple of wait staff and so on and so forth, and you have half a menu, and you're like, and now you've been renting this building and you did all the construction on it. You've been renting the building for 3 or 6 months now, and you're running out of startup capital because now you're also paying these people to show up every day to help you work on creating all this stuff, and you still don't have a full menu, right? Just open the fucking doors, give them what you got. You know what I mean? And because the truth of the matter is now your startup capital is going out the window, and it's all because you're too afraid to have people come in, be disappointed by your lack of selection, or maybe the lack of skill behind your staff or whatever. You're still working on training the guys. You want all these things to be perfect, and you're not there yet. Guess what? If you don't have money coming in, it's never going to matter anyway. And so getting the ducks in a row, and this is kind of what I said, you cannot get all of your ducks in a row. This inherently suggests that these things outside of your control are controllable. So now you're mama duck. You've got a bunch of ducks that you're leading somewhere, and you want to get them all in a row to follow a nice, neat little row behind you, right? And what inevitably happens? One or two of your ducks starts to walk away, starts to get, a little distracted, starts to do, and so this is what I mean by this. You cannot get them all in a row To suggest that you can get them all in a row and keep them all in a row suggests that you can control that which is uncontrollable. So Mama Duck doesn't wait for them to fall in line. She just leads them onward anyway. She's watchful and makes slight corrections, but allows the ducks to meander and then find their way back. Because the reality is as long as you continue to move forward, and this is not what I wrote, but as long as you continue to move forward, those things that you cannot control will find their ways to align with you. And this is, again, the showing up metric. Stop worrying about perfect. Stop worrying about how you feel. Stop worrying about having the full menu. Open the doors. Start moving forward. This is the biggest lesson I know. I can't help it. This is the biggest lesson. It's my fidgeting, but it's the biggest lesson that we need to to learn in starting a business and in life in general. I mean, a lot of what we're going to talk about here on this podcast going forward and now and what I've talked about in the past, it isn't just about starting a business. It's realistically, starting a business isn't much different than just living a successful life. Success doesn't necessarily mean becoming rich and having a very popular business and and leading a bunch of people and all these things. Success is what you define it to be, right?
Right.
So, a successful life is not necessarily one in which you're wealthy. If that's what you define your successful life as, then you're probably going to find yourself missing something.
Right.
You don't have it quite all of it. But and I think generally speaking, most people understand that anyway. But well, at any rate, so that was my one of my biggest insights. So how many times because this past week has been a week.
Yeah.
Right. And I hit a pretty big wall, and that was when I and I go through these cycles where I begin to question, is this the right move? Am I, is this how I want to be perceived? Is this how I want the business to be perceived? I still, I'm only slightly out there. I've got the little bit of audience that I might be getting from this podcast. And the few friends and family that understand that I'm in the middle of something. But I do, you try not to worry about what other people think, how other people feel, but the reality is I do, I don't want to fail. Right. And I don't want people to see me fail. I still have this mentality stuck in my head that I can't let go. It's just, I can't ask for help.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't want people to see me in a position where I need help. I don't like it when people offer me help. And, that's a big, tough one to get over. I'm working. That's one I'm going to keep working on. But at any rate, so behind the scenes, why don't you give our listener a little behind the scenes reality check? How many times have we almost called it quits? This is referring to this last podcast.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. How many times did we almost call it quits on that? Even this one. I came pretty close on this one.
At least twice. It was really frustrating to try and get all this technology to work together, and
perfection.
Yes, well, that's the issue. You can't. You're never going to get perfection.
No.
So you can shoot for it all you want.
You know what I've been doing a lot this past week?
Yes.
So after we finished recording the last episode, after we finished that recording, you know what I did is I started researching cameras. The grainy video.
Yeah.
I don't like the grainy video. I really don't like the grainy video. Also, we don't exactly have good lighting in here, but I do have a solution for that. I just got to actually fucking put it up. But this morning was lighting panels. Most of the first few days of this after that recording was cameras. And get real cameras.
Yep.
And as it turns out, camcorders are the way to go.
They still make camcorders?
Oh yeah. They record to SD cards.
Oh.
And so you get the appropriate SD card. You probably want to get one that's 125 or 128, and then there's 256. You want a nice large SD card, right?
Yeah.
And you record directly to the SD card, but it live feeds through your recording software and everything, so that you can sync everything together and whatnot, and you get a camera switcher and all this shit, and then you upload it all to your computer for editing, and you cut to your different scenes and so on and so forth. But then there's lighting too. You get lighting. I'm not sure these are the best. I mean, it's pretty good when you can find the sweet spot. But see, depending on where you're talking, my microphone doesn't really, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
and I have noticed that there is a difference in the output, or that sometimes there's what I hear in my headphones is not the same as what's being recorded. So, like what we're noticing right now, that's probably just us hearing that, and the audio is probably fine on the recording. I think I don't know. We'll see when this is done, right? But at any rate, yeah. So I spent a lot of time looking at cameras, started kind of considering microphones, and all that stuff. I'm just rambling, right?
Yeah.
Would you like me to stick more to the schedule?
Could you?
You can steer me. So, all right. Well, so you want to move on from that? When Liam is in the handwritten gratitude mode and Julie is in the what didn't get done mode. Oh, yeah, that was an interesting situation. Do you want to talk about that?
What are you talking about?
So it's the the using our gratitude or our excitement list as a to-do list.
Well, it's not really meant to be a to-do list.
No.
It
can be easy to get caught up on it, though. I mean,
because you get to the end of your day or the next morning, and you're checking them off like as if you did them. You know, so it does kind of turn into a to-do list, but that's not what it's meant for. It's meant to get your day going and get hopping on stuff. You know what I'm saying?
So the excitement, yes, sort of. So the way I like to think of the excitement list is first of all, it doesn't have to be written down, but the importance of writing it down is twofold. Excuse me. The importance of writing it down is twofold, because actually physically committing something to paper, the act of physically writing something, it there's, and there's science to back this up, that it creates this connection to your subconscious, and and it's kind of like pouring concrete on the idea. You're setting it in stone. Um, so the idea, you come up with your um, what you're excited for today, so that you have a starting point in which you can be grateful for. So you're excited to do something, then you do it, and now you're like, oh yeah, so hey, that was great. That happened.
Right.
And writing it down kind of sets it in stone. Now you begin to see that easier when you accomplish that thing. But the other reason for writing it down is so that you can recall that moment of gratitude later. So you're not only setting it in stone so that you have some kind of subconscious recognition of something that you're grateful for having accomplished, but you're also so that you can look back at it later, live in that moment again, and feel that gratitude, and actually feel the gratitude.
Right.
And I think the problem is that once it goes on paper, and especially problem for you and I, because I work second shift, I'm not there to go through the gratitude at the end of the day with you. And that's the point. We're excited in the morning, we're grateful in the afternoon or in the evening. And because I'm not here when you go to bed, I can't live through it with you.
Right.
So we talk about it just before we do the excitement for the day. And then that's where it gets confused, because now we're staring at a list. And we check off some things and we don't check off other things. We're really not checking them off to say, yes, we did that. We're checking it off to say, yes, I'm grateful for that.
Right.
But it looks so much like a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it's very, and it is, I think the important thing about why the way we're writing it now, the way we've been writing it now. So we talk about we're excited. We actually use the words, I'm excited too.
Right.
And then when we did our week in review, which we do every Sunday, we do a week in review, and we review the big moments of gratitude from the past week. And this has now grown, I would say. And now, each evening we're finding other things to be grateful for beyond what's in the list. And, and even on our week in review, right?
Right.
So, it's so there's, it's it's easy to get confused, but I think that we're kind of over that hump now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And so we had to find some common ground on that, because I was getting a little it was a bit of friction for me. It felt like as though you were having a hard time getting beyond the to-do list of it all. And of course, it could also be boiled down to a misunderstanding of what we were doing. I kind of really needed. I don't always explain everything that's going on in my head very well. And I think sometimes, especially with you, because we tend to have a deeper connection than, say, I would with somebody else. We'll leave things unsaid for the sake of this comfort and expectation that you'll understand or whatever,
Yeah.
That's
fair.
Yeah. So we had to find a way to bridge that gap between what you thought we were, or what you thought the whole mission was, and into understanding what I was trying to achieve by having us do this. Right.
Right.
So I think, yeah, I mean, we had one of those moments, and I was, I was a bit of a dick. I walked away, I had a smoke, and I came back, and then we talked about it. We got put it all out on the table. we've been pretty good at that, I'd
Yeah.
say. We don't always, it's not always perfect, but we come back to the table and we lay it out, right?
Right.
I think that's pretty good. But then, coming back from that, you know, then you're walking into a high stakes meeting with unpretty numbers. Is this the one with the SBA?
No, this is the one with Common Capital.
Yeah.
Um,
So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you were feeling going into that?
I was pretty anxious because while Common Capital doesn't really take into account your credit score, um, they look at your overall credit picture and your character and what kind of person you are and what your plan is. Um, so the woman I talked to was so nice. She was very informational, and we're gonna meet again this week. I'm looking forward to it. She gave me a template for the business plan. I was able to finish that. Um, so I feel like it's promising. I'm going to look at it that way until it's not and go from there.
That's the tough part. It's like, um, again, we're wired to be outcome oriented, right?
Right.
It's like, so it's like, okay, so now I've done that. Now where's my cookie?
Right.
And it's like, and sometimes, especially if we're lacking a little bit of confidence in something or whatever, that our immediate thoughts, because we're not getting the cookie right away, the immediate feeling is that maybe we're not getting a cookie.
Right.
And yeah, that's a real tough part. Kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, about the doing as opposed to the result. So I think a big part of finding some level of peace and contentment is an understanding that, okay, if I get the cookie, that's great. I can be hopeful. That's the distinction, right? I can be hopeful that I get the cookie, but the outcome isn't the important part. The important part is that I did the thing. Mm-hmm. And for you, so that would be having the conversation, the difficult conversation, regardless of what the numbers said and regardless of what all your previous anxieties were, right?
Right.
So you feel good. I mean, so how are you feeling now? I mean, you feel pretty good about it, because that obviously went beyond. I mean, she gave you a lot of stuff to work with.
Right. I'm feeling really good about it. I mean,
how did you come to feel good about it?
Well, unlike the SBA guy, who, no offense to the SBA, but this guy was useless. She was genuinely interested in my business and my mission within my business, my values. As far as that goes, she was, generally wanted to know how I felt about it and what I.
That's kind of how they're. I mean, that's kind of like the way that the picture that was painted about them, wasn't it?
Yes.
That they're very, very, that they're going to be very interested in you specifically.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think when, cause I mean, everybody knows about the SBA, and, you're starting on a business and you kind of have some kind of hope that the SBA might be able to help, but SBA is, I mean, it's bureaucracy, right? To some degree.
Yeah.
They're really just they're going to maybe help you to get in touch with some lenders, give you some, pointers, maybe some, but it's bureaucracy. These people don't,
yeah,
they're not made to care.
Right.
But then, when you told me about Common Capital and, I think it was, yeah, I mean, you explained who they were. I was like, wow, that sounds really good. And that sounds like something that would actually really work for you. I mean, and you hadn't even talked to him yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, that might be your ticket right there. And so we'll see. But that sounds pretty hopeful, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Very enthusiastic about it.
What I was trying to get at when I asked you how you came to feel good about it is because she gave you a whole slew of things to do.
Yeah. She, like I said, it gave me a business plan template. I had to fill out a financial statement. I think that was it. But it was, I mean, the business plan that I ended up finishing was like 26 pages long.
Yeah.
They ask a lot of deep questions.
Did that kind of paint more of the picture of what I was trying to say before about building a business plan, having all these answers?
Yes.
Because when I did my business plan, I feel like I'm fading here. When I did my business plan, I had a little bit of an insight. My initial business plan, the first business plan I wrote, was just it wasn't meant for investors. It wasn't even meant for the LLC. It was just, this is my plan for the next 5 years, which was when I was trying to build something from the day trading, and I showed that to my old boss. And when I was talking to him, I forgot why I went to see him in that particular meeting. I don't remember why I went to see him, but at any rate, I showed it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, so you need something better than this." So then when I did my business plan for the LLC, and I worked through that with Gemini to help me put that together. Gemini was like, "This isn't for investors. You should know that this is the basics, so that you can file your LLC." Because the business plan you need for your LLC or your S corp or whatever for your filing, just needs to be a statement on record on how you plan on running your business, who's invested in this business, and so on and so forth. But a real business plan, which is the one that you give investors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which includes lenders, because lenders are basically investors. They just they have a different return ROI.
Mm-hmm.
An investor is long term. A lender is more short term, right?
Yeah.
But it's basically, and that was what I was trying to tell you is, they want to know you've got a plan for everything. They want to know where you're starting from, where you plan on being a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. How are you going to get there? They want to know everything. And if you haven't thought it, they still want to know it.
Right.
So you better, you really have to sit down and you have to put a lot of time and energy into it. So I think it's great that Common Capital, that's right.
Yeah.
I think it's great that they gave you something to just fill out, because it basically everything that's in there is probably the exact same thing that you would have to do if you were, say, trying to gather together a group of investors to invest in you. There's a lot, and
yeah.
Because think of it this way. If you were investing in something or just lending, as a business, you want to protect your capital.
Right.
And, so you need to know that what you're putting your money into is going to have a high probability of return. Right. Because, you're not planning on just giving the money away. Right.
Right.
That's the whole reason why you're investing. The idea is to get something back in return.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to know there's a plan for everything. You don't want somebody to just, oh yeah, I'm just going to take your money and I'm just going to throw it. It's like you invest some money into somebody. They tell you, okay, I'm going to return to you 125% of this. So there's your return. You get 25% on the top after I borrow this money. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the freaking to MGM. I'm going to let it ride on the slots, and I plan on doubling or tripling my income, and I'll come back and give you what I borrowed plus 25%. Does that sound like a good business plan?
Not at all.
No. So what are your contingencies? What are you going to do? I mean, when what happens when the next COVID hits and people aren't working and they're struggling to get by, and it's just them inside their house with their pet.
Right.
Suddenly your business is going to slow.
Yes.
What are you going to do? What plans do you have? Right? And that's the whole point of that. Right?
Yeah.
So, but I think it was the process. You were initially pretty daunted by the process. You saw the paperwork she gave you.
I wasn't smart enough to know what I didn't know. If that makes sense.
Isn't that the truth? We don't know what we don't know, and most of the time we don't know that we don't know it.
Exactly. So, she's telling me all these things, and I'm like, good grief. Okay. So it was a little alarming, but now that I've finished the plan and I kind of know how things are going to happen, it's better.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk. So I don't know. Did you answer this already? We'll talk about the, I don't know what value over credentials is referring to, but can you talk about what the lion's share shift? What changed in your head to make you start grabbing the mic more this week? What is that referring to?
I don't know.
Okay, we're going to skip that. I think we can anyway, because we're now officially into the second hour. I don't know what led up to this, so let me see if I can figure out. Prank fog. Here we go. So March 25th. A punchy reframe. So you can be fired from 100 jobs, but does that mean you are incapable or that you're a bad person? And so I'm trying to think. This it has to do with I think that with the stress that it was just a kind of a random insight, but I think it's backed a little bit behind what's going on at work for me recently. We've got this project. It started as I made we're having a problem with the machine. I made an observation that something was wrong. Some engineering wasn't correct, and that ballooned into a whole slew of things, which came to light. Kind of the crux of it really kind
as it often does
came to a head this past week. But the a big part of it is and this relates to you too with what you've gone through, and and it's also the fear of failure. Mm-hmm. So in other words, in launching a book, hoping that people will buy, and also I'm hoping that we're gonna, that I'll see a decent uh, a decent amount of subscriptions to the service, to the coaching and community service. Excuse me. So, my comment was you can be fired from 100 jobs, but does that mean you are incapable or that you are a bad person? It just means 100 people whose opinion is not aligned. It means that there's 100 people whose opinion is not aligned with who you are. And so basically, and this is the big tough one for me, in putting myself out there with evac, with the consulting service, is that now I'm going to be throwing myself out there, and I've got to swim through a sea of people to find the people that are actually looking for my product, but not just looking for my product, actually aligned with, mentally aligned with what I'm selling.
Yeah.
And it's, my Sarah says here that that's a strong standalone talking point about resilience and identity. And that's the truth, is that, I'm selling myself just like you are. You're selling yourself.
Yeah.
You're selling your ability, your care, your genuine, love for animals and so on. And I'm selling my desire to change an industry for the better. And hopefully teach some people along the way, some things that they may not already know, about the trade or, whatever. And, and so to swim through the sea of people who are not interested can be daunting, because it can seem like nobody cares, like nobody, and the reality is that not everyone's aligned with what you're doing, the person you are, the person you're becoming,
Right.
and so on. And so that was kind of where that came from. So, in regards to work for me, with this big project and everything, is that there's a certain amount of expectations from some, and then there's expectations from others. And of course, there's a people pleaser in me, and that's what this really has to do with. Just because you've been fired from a job does not make you bad. The people pleaser in you feels that that's a major failure. In reality, you're just not aligned. Right?
Right. For me, I wouldn't consider myself a people pleaser.
No.
Yes, like my grooming clients, I want them to be happy with my work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the dog is my client,
Yeah.
and I do what's best for the animal.
Right. I think we all have a level of people pleasing.
I mean, yeah, nobody wants people to be angry or upset with them, or
Right.
think that they're a loser. Nobody likes that.
Well, do you find yourself you ever, actually, this is probably, you ever find yourself just wanting to help? You see somebody is struggling with something, you just want to help.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's a people pleaser trait. So sometimes your help may not be warranted. See, now I'm definitely a people pleaser, right? I mean, would you agree? I see you struggling.
Yeah.
And I feel the need to get in there and help. Not only that, but then I hold your opinion so high, right, on the things that I'm doing, what I can do for you,
right,
that what else can I do? How else can I help? It's, and it's a tough thing to admit, because it sounds like I'm a yes man. I'm not a yes man. I'm the first one to freaking, and they hate me at work because I'm not a yes man. Because I'm the first one to say, no, that's absolutely wrong, and I won't do it. I'm not a get along I'm not, what's the phrase? Go along to get along guy. But I also, I don't want, I don't want you to be angry. I don't, I want to fulfill whatever it is. So instead of go along to get along, I'm like, well, I've got a better way. And I've got a better way that'll make you even more happy. Even though chances are, if you're the type that's trying to get me to go along, then you're probably not going to be happy with anything I do. But regardless, so, I think that's a big thing about this comment. The 100 jobs is, sometimes we just have to face it. We're just not in alignment with the people that were, you know what I mean, with whatever job or whatever relationship or so on, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. These notes don't have they don't seem to kind of go.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I feel like we're more all over the place reading from these notes than we are if I just rambled on.
I don't know.
But at any rate, and this is all part of it too, right? So I don't want anything edited out of this week's show. I don't know how you feel. I mean, where do you feel that we're at right now? I mean, you obviously you're feeling like things are going well for you currently. You've got this, you got this paperwork done. You're talking to somebody that actually cares about your success, your level of success. The only exception being my playing with the microphone, right? It's just driving you crazy. But no, but it's in all seriousness, where, I feel like you're in a good spot right now. Like you feel good right now.
I feel good about that.
Yeah.
Other things going on, not
Yeah.
so much.
Well, I mean, what about you, about the business? This is kind of what I'm referring to. I mean, life still happens, right? I mean, we still have the dog issue to deal with.
Right.
We still have the money issue. Our belt's a bit tight. Unemployment hasn't come through for you yet. Okay. Aside from all that, forget that shit. I mean, that's a big part of our life. I grant you that. But, I mean, you've got to feel good about what you're doing. And because I think the reason why I want to make a distinction between that other stuff versus you professionally is your identity is at this particular moment. Would you say it's fair to say that your identity is tied to what you do?
Yes.
That it is the crux of your identity. The crux of your identity is what you do.
I like that word.
Crux.
Yes.
So,
I would say so.
So, money comes and goes. Money issues come and go. Dogs, unfortunately, come and go. It is great of, is of an impact that they can have on our lives. It's a short-lived one, and we know this going in. And so I'm not trying to belittle the issues, but they comparatively, your identity is far greater than any of those issues can ever be.
Right. Yeah.
So so now going back to my question with that understanding, I mean, would you say you feel pretty good about that identity right now and where that's headed?
Yes.
Morning rituals, evening rituals, the constant showing up even when you don't feel it.
Yeah.
How about the roller coaster? You want to talk about the roller coaster?
The roller coaster.
Just real quick, using that analogy, what's funny about the roller coaster? It always seems slow going up to that high, and so very fast coming down to the
Yes.
low.
I ride a roller coaster every day. I start my day feeling pretty good.
Woo!
I'm up. I'm ready for action. Let's go. And then by dinner time, 6, 7 o'clock, I'm feeling like I don't know if I can do this.
You know what? When I was out of work, and I was before I started working on a book. Before I hit that roadblock, I was out of work, and just start the morning off really good. Okay, so here's what I'm excited for today, and blah 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 blah. And then you would go off to work, 7:30 you leave. By 8:30, I'm hitting this wall, and I'm like, ugh. By noontime, now I'm not working, so I got nowhere to go, nothing to do, right? By noontime, I'm like, fuck if I want to do anything anymore. This isn't working. Nothing's working. How can I ever beat this? And it wasn't that, it was never anything external. It was always me. Who the fuck am I to think I can do this? Right?
Right.
Does that sound familiar? I mean, does it sound at all?
Yeah, definitely. I run all these scenarios through my head. What if this happens? What if that happens? I don't have, in those moments, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in myself, in anything really. I'm just, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. So I broke through that. There is a point you break through it. I mean, you still deal with the roller coaster, but it's much different because on that downhill that there's an uphill.
Yeah.
You can't ever go down without coming right back up on a roller coaster, and that's the beautiful thing about it. And yeah, sometimes you might spiral around, maybe you go through a loop, whatever. It is what it is. It's you don't know necessarily what's right around the next turn, but for every downhill, there's an uphill, and that's something that I came to terms with eventually. When and it's I think that a lot of it was just confidence.
Yeah.
It was just confidence issues. Every downhill was like, who am I? And I still deal with it from time to time, but now instead of, as I'm going down, I'm like, all right, just brace for it. It's all we can do, and I'll even go through I'll say things, but then I wake up the next morning and I'm like, I feel like shit. I don't know. And then we start going through our emotions. And by the time I get in front of the journal, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we've been making some pretty good progress. I think the roller coaster is something you're going to spend some more time with, but I think for you, it'll be a little bit easier, first, because you've seen me go through it. And secondly, I think too, is because your confidence shouldn't be, I don't think that, and I shouldn't say shouldn't, your confidence is your confidence. But what I mean to say is, I think that for you, because you're not making such a far stretch outside of your comfort zone, that, getting through it won't take months like it did for me. I think that, you'll be able to start settling into, once you have your answers from, from the lenders and, from contractors and so on. And you have, once you start to see when your end date is,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be your biggest hurdle is finally figuring out when that end date is, and having that event on the horizon for you.
Right.
And then it all becomes real, and you begin to say, okay, now I can do it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you already know that you're going to have the clients.
Yeah.
You already know you don't have to go out of your way to advertise either.
No.
And so I mean, in a lot of ways, you just got to get from this point to this point.
Exactly.
And because all this down here is already kind of filled in for you.
Yeah.
It's great. For me, and I'm not trying to make comparisons. I'm, I think for me, it's a little bit, it's majorly different because I don't know. I don't have any of these answers filled in yet. So that this point, getting to this point, which I think I've gotten to, getting to that point is I still don't have a clear view of this down the road, but I don't need one anymore. And that's what this point provided for me is I don't need clarity anymore. Clarity will come, and if this whole thing doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's part of the process too.
Yeah.
Because then I'll just find something new, some other process to make, and if this thing with the work situation is, becomes untenable while I'm working that out, then I just find another place I can go be a, maintenance electrician. I don't need to spend, I don't need to do crazy things. And if my body gets to a point where it's untenable, well, then, then we start exploring other options. But, life doesn't end. And I think that it's too easy to create this freaking, well, everything's going to come crashing down if this thing doesn't work,
Right.
So, I don't know. I think that we've had a pretty good past week.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things have come to light. We've had a lot of good insights. I'm still very grateful for all the struggle I went through over the past week. Is hard, is superfluous.
Superfluous. I don't think that's the word you're looking for.
Superfluous. No, it's not the word I'm looking for.
We'll use it in context.
I don't think that means what you think it means. Inconceivable. What was I forgot the point that I'm making. I don't think is well, as cliche as I'm making it out to be. It's true. I'm grateful for the struggle. And that's the new insight, the new me is that, I mean, it's not fun going through it. By all means, it's not fun. Like that one guy in our pep talk videos. It sucks.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Yeah.
But but you know what? Progress is being made.
Yeah.
And I know that I can show up. I've been showing up. I've been showing up every day for the last 2 years. Right?
Yeah.
When did I stop? So how do you feel? You feel good about going through it all? You feel like is it making you stronger? See, you can't go to the gym one day and then feel like you're suddenly a tank.
I don't know. Some days I feel like it, yes.
Yeah.
Other days, not so much.
So those days that you feel like it, those are the ones you focus on. Because if you feel like it one day, chances are, even if you're not feeling it the next, you're still stronger.
Yeah.
So like in that too, you keep in mind, you don't go to the gym for a week and suddenly you're a tank. You don't go even after a month. You can go every day for a month. You're not going to suddenly be a tank.
Right.
It takes time. It takes commitment and consistency. And, and don't forget too, just like your muscles, There has to be a recovery period. So we have to give ourselves a little grace when we're not, when we feel like we're not going to show up enough to say, okay, but now I need to recover a little bit. I need some time, even if it's an entire Saturday of sleeping. That's kind of where I'm at. I think that I'm not really looking for a full 2-hour episode here. I think that we've covered our bases.
Yeah.
And besides, I don't think I could deal with another half an hour of pee-pee dance.
Again?
Yeah, no, so I've got an old man bladder.
We can take that out.
No, we can leave that in.
Okay.
I don't care. But I'm getting older. I've got the bladder the size of a pea. So it is what it is. But at any rate, I mean, I think we've covered everything from this past week. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think that's it.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna leave. I want to leave this episode with a couple of thoughts. One is, if this jamoke can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
Find your wins. Make sure you find your wins. Every day, mark your wins and be grateful for them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Understand the difference between gratitude and to-do lists.
Yeah.
We're not trying to make sure to do things. We're trying to look for things. So we want to open our minds to things to be grateful for. And there's plenty of other ways that I'm sure people could do it. This is the way that I think works for us. But always look for more things to be grateful for. Try to live your life in a place of gratitude, and from gratitude we'll from gratitude we'll begin to live in a place of abundance. And I know this to be true because I'm already seeing, I see tiny little bits of evidence of it every day. So that's great. Also, for whatever reason, Mindset or Gemini wants me to mention this all to you people based on my firing comment. Your resume is a list of people who eventually stop paying you. Your value is the list of problems only you know how to solve. If you're still clinging to your credentials, you're already obsolete. Keep that in mind. So it's not about how many places you've worked, and it's not about who you've worked for. It's about what you can do. Believe in yourself. You can make anything happen.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
thank you everybody for, thank you the one or two people that listen in for joining us for yet another week of Electrician Entrepreneur. Please, 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 please. Here's another shameless plug. If you know an electrical contractor, or if you're just curious yourself, and maybe you can help drive traffic, for the people that I'm actually interested, or that could be actually interested in this, evec-community.org or evec-community.org, or elevated velocity electricalconsulting.com. My book, pre-orders for my book, and for the community. If you're not, if it's, well, yeah. So, give me a help. Yeah, I know. I have to pee really bad.
Well, wrap it up.
Well, we're going to wrap it up. So, check it out, please. And if you're just here now, Electrician to Entrepreneur is not the same as elevated velocity, electrical consulting, or anything elevated velocity, which there will be more. It's very important to draw the distinction. This is a documentation of two entrepreneurs trying to become successful entrepreneurs. And that is one of the businesses that I'm hoping to be successful at. So, without any further ado, I think that's it.
Yeah.
We covered everything. We'll do this again next week. Hopefully, this doesn't take a week and a half to edit and publish.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can start advertising it.
Yeah.
And all that. So I want to thank you guys again, and we'll see you all next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.